Alyssa Monroe thought falling asleep on a stranger's shoulder during a red-eye flight was the most embarrassing moment of her life, until she discovered the man who let her rest was hiding a secret that would shatter everything she believed about love and trust. What started as an innocent encounter between an exhausted hotel maid and a kind traveler became a dangerous game of deception when Ethan Cole's true identity threatened to destroy the only genuine connection he'd ever known. She worked double shifts just to afford her mother's medication, while he owned companies worth millions, but neither of them knew that one moment of vulnerability at 30,000 feet would change their lives forever. When the truth finally exploded at an upscale restaurant, Alyssa had to choose between walking away from the best thing that ever happened to her or trusting a man who had been lying from the very first hello. But some secrets run deeper than money, and some love stories begin with the most devastating betrayals. If you're watching this incredible love story unfold, hit subscribe and tell me which city you're watching from. I love connecting with viewers from around the world. The smell of industrial cleaner filled Alyssa's nose as she pushed her cart down the hotel hallway. Her feet ached in her worn sneakers. The carpet felt thick under her tired legs. Room 412 was the last one on her list. She pulled out her keycard and slid it into the slot. The door clicked open. Inside, the bed was a mess of twisted sheets and scattered pillows. Empty room service plates sat on the desk. Someone had left towels all over the bathroom floor. Alyssa sighed and got to work. She stripped the bed and put on fresh sheets. She wiped down every surface until it gleamed. She folded the towels into perfect squares. This was her life. Clean rooms, make beds, pick up after people who would never know her name. The clock on the nightstand said 11:47 p.m. Her shift had started at noon, almost 12 hours of bending, lifting, and scrubbing. Her lower back throbbed with each movement. "You still here, mija?" Rosa's voice called from the hallway. Alyssa smiled despite her exhaustion. Rosa Martinez had been the head housekeeper for 15 years. She treated all the younger maids like her daughters. At 52, Rosa moved through these halls like she owned them. "Just finishing up," Alyssa called back. Rosa appeared in the doorway. Her gray hair was pulled back in a neat bun. Her uniform was still crisp even after a long day. "You look dead on your feet. Go home." "Almost done." Alyssa sprayed the mirror one more time. "The hotel will still be here tomorrow. Your body won't if you keep pushing it like this." Alyssa knew Rosa was right, but the overtime pay helped cover her mother's medicine. Every extra hour meant something. She packed up her supplies and pushed the cart toward the service elevator. Rosa walked beside her. "You catch that red-eye flight tonight?" Rosa asked. "Yeah. Gets me home by 2 a.m. Alyssa rubbed her neck. The muscles felt like twisted rope. "You be careful flying that tired. Don't fall asleep and miss your stop." They laughed together. The elevator dinged and opened. "See you Thursday," Rosa said, patting Alyssa's shoulder. "See you Thursday." The hotel lobby was quiet except for the night desk clerk typing on his computer. Alyssa walked out into the cool night air. Her car was parked under a streetlight in the employee lot. The drive to the airport took 20 minutes. Highway signs blurred past her windows. She thought about her small apartment waiting for her. Her cat, Luna, would be curled up on the windowsill. There would be leftover pasta in the fridge. Simple things. Quiet things. That was her life, and most days it felt like enough. The airport was nearly empty. Check-in took 5 minutes. Security moved fast with so few people. Alyssa found her gate and slumped into a hard plastic chair. The departure board showed her flight was on time. She closed her eyes for just a moment. Her phone buzzed, a text from her mother. Hope work wasn't too hard today. "See you soon, baby," Alyssa typed back. "On my way home now. Love you." When they called for boarding, Alyssa dragged herself to her feet. Her carry-on bag felt heavier than it should. She showed her ticket to the gate agent and walked down the narrow jet bridge. The plane was maybe half full. Late-night flights were always like this. Business travelers heading home. A few college students with backpacks, an elderly couple sharing a crossword puzzle. Alyssa found her seat, 24B, middle seat. She groaned softly and looked around. Maybe she could move to an empty row. "Excuse me," a man's voice said behind her. She turned. He was tall with light brown hair and kind eyes. He wore dark jeans and a simple gray sweater. Nothing fancy, but everything looked clean and well-fitted. "I think I'm in the window seat," he said, pointing to 24A. "Of course." Alyssa stepped into the aisle to let him pass. He slid into his seat and buckled his seatbelt. "Long day?" he asked. "The longest." She sat down and tried to get comfortable. The armrest dug into her ribs. "I know the feeling." He pulled a book from his bag, something about architecture. The plane filled slowly. A few more passengers trickled on. The flight attendants did their safety demonstration. Alyssa had seen it 100 times. As they pushed back from the gate, she felt her body start to relax. The hardest part of the day was over. In a few hours, she would be home. The man next to her, she didn't even know his name, was reading quietly. He kept to his own space, didn't hog the armrest or spread his legs too wide. That was rare. "First time flying at this hour?" she asked. He looked up from his book. "No, but it never gets easier. You?" "I do this trip about once a month. Work takes me away for a few days." "What kind of work?" "Hotel stuff." "You?" He paused for just a moment. "Consulting." The engines roared louder as they started down the runway. Alyssa gripped her armrests. She had flown dozens of times, but takeoff still made her nervous. The plane lifted into the dark sky. City lights spread out below them like scattered stars. Soon they were above the clouds, and everything outside the windows went black. The cabin lights dimmed. Most passengers settled in to sleep or read. A few kids in the back were still talking, but their voices got quieter. Alyssa tried to find a comfortable position. Her neck was stiff from looking down all day. Her shoulders ached. She rolled them slowly, trying to work out the knots. "You okay?" the man asked. "Just tired. Long shift." "What do you do at the hotel?" She hesitated. People sometimes got weird when she told them she cleaned rooms, like it made her less than them somehow. "Housekeeping," she said finally. He nodded like it was the most normal thing in the world. "That's hard work. I stayed in a hotel last week, and the housekeeper did an amazing job. I left a note thanking her." Alyssa smiled. "I bet she appreciated that. People don't usually notice what we do." "They should. You make everything nice for the next person." Something about the way he said it made her look at him more closely. His hands were clean but not soft, like he had worked with them before. His clothes were simple but good quality. He seemed comfortable but not flashy. "I'm Alyssa, by the way." "Ethan." He smiled, and it reached his eyes. "Nice to meet you, Alyssa." The plane hit a patch of turbulence. It bounced and shook for a few seconds. Alyssa's stomach dropped. "I hate that," she said, gripping the armrest. "Me too. But we're through it now." The plane smoothed out. Her heartbeat slowed back to normal. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Ethan went back to his book. Alyssa stared out the window at nothing but darkness. Her eyelids felt heavy. She had been awake since 5 a.m. 18 hours was too long for anyone. She tried to stay upright, but her neck kept tilting to one side. Her muscles were giving up the fight. Sleep was pulling her down like a warm blanket. "Just rest your eyes for a minute," she told herself. But her body had other plans. Her head drifted sideways. She was too tired to fight it. The last thing she remembered was the soft fabric of Ethan's sweater against her cheek. Ethan felt the weight of Alyssa's head settle against his shoulder. At first, he tensed. They were strangers. This was awkward, but she was clearly exhausted. Her breathing had already deepened into sleep. Moving would wake her up, and she needed the rest. He looked down at her peaceful face. Her skin was smooth and dark brown. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, probably required for her job. She looked young, maybe mid-20s, and completely worn out. The flight attendant walked by and noticed. She gave Ethan a questioning look. He shook his head slightly. "Let her sleep." The flight attendant smiled and kept walking. Ethan tried to go back to his book, but it was hard to concentrate. Alyssa shifted slightly in her sleep. Her hand fell onto the armrest between them. He found himself studying her fingers. They were slender but showed signs of hard work. Her nails were short and practical. No fancy manicure, just clean and neat. She smelled like soap and something faintly floral, probably the hotel's laundry detergent. It was pleasant and clean. His shoulder was starting to cramp, but he didn't want to move. When was the last time someone had trusted him like this? Even asleep, even by accident, she had let herself be vulnerable with him. Most people treated him differently once they knew who he was, once they saw the expensive cars and the big house. They wanted things from him, money or connections or access to his world. But Alyssa didn't know any of that. To her, he was just Ethan, a guy in jeans and a sweater who read architecture books. The plane hummed through the night sky. Other passengers slept or watched movies on their phones. The flight attendants moved quietly up and down the aisles. Ethan closed his book and let his head rest against the window. Alyssa's breathing was steady and calm. He could feel the rise and fall of her chest against his arm. This was nice, simple and human and real. His phone buzzed in his pocket, probably his assistant with updates about tomorrow's meetings, or his cousin Daniel wanting to know when he would be back in the office. He ignored it. For the next hour, he was just a guy on a plane, nothing more complicated than that. The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent. Please return your seats to the upright position and prepare for landing." Ethan felt Alyssa stir against his shoulder. Her eyelids fluttered. She was waking up. He stayed very still, letting her come back to consciousness gradually. Alyssa's eyes opened slowly. For a moment, she was confused. Where was she? Why did her pillow feel so solid? Then reality hit her like cold water. She was on Ethan's shoulder. Her head was on a complete stranger's shoulder. How long had she been sleeping on him? She jerked upright, her face burning with embarrassment. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." She pressed her hands to her cheeks. They felt hot enough to cook eggs on. "It's okay," Ethan said gently. "You needed the sleep. But I fell asleep on you. That's so weird and inappropriate and—" "Alyssa." His voice was calm. "It's really okay. You were exhausted." She looked at him carefully. His hair was a little messed up where her head had been. His sweater was wrinkled, but his expression was kind, not annoyed or disgusted. "How long?" she asked. "Maybe an hour." "An hour? You let me sleep on you for an hour?" He shrugged. "You needed it more than I needed to move." The plane was descending now. Her ears popped with the pressure change. Out the window she could see city lights getting bigger and brighter. "Thank you," she said quietly. "That was really nice of you." "Don't mention it." The landing gear dropped with a thunk. The plane touched down smoothly and rolled toward the gate. Passengers around them started gathering their things. Alyssa reached under the seat for her bag. She felt better after the nap, but also embarrassed. Who falls asleep on a stranger? "You feel more rested?" Ethan asked. "Yeah, actually. Sorry again for using you as a pillow." "Best use I've been all week," he said, and she laughed. They waited for the people in front of them to file off the plane. The aisles were always crowded during deplaning. "Can I ask you something?" Alyssa said. "Why didn't you wake me up? Most people would have." Ethan thought about it. "You looked like you really needed the sleep, and it wasn't hurting me." She studied his face. He seemed genuine, not like he was trying to impress her or get something from her. Just honest. "That was really kind," she said. They finally made it off the plane and into the terminal. The airport was mostly empty. Their footsteps echoed on the tile floor. "Can I buy you a coffee?" Ethan asked, "as a thank you for being such a good travel companion?" Alyssa checked her phone. 2:15 a.m. She should go home. Luna would be waiting. She had work again on Thursday. But something about Ethan made her want to say yes. Maybe it was the way he had let her sleep, or how he hadn't made her feel stupid about it. "Okay," she said, "but I should buy you coffee, for letting me use you as furniture." They found a small cafe that was still open near the baggage claim. The barista looked half asleep but made them decent coffee. They sat at a small table by the window. Planes were still taking off and landing outside, red and white lights moving through the darkness. "So," Alyssa said, wrapping her hands around her warm cup, "architecture consulting?" "Something like that." Ethan sipped his coffee. "What got you into hotel work?" She almost laughed. Got her into it, like it was a career choice instead of necessity. "I needed a job with benefits," she said simply. "My mom has diabetes. The insurance helps." "That's a good reason." "Not very glamorous, though." "Who needs glamorous? Important is better." She looked at him again. Most guys her age were trying to impress her with stories about their jobs or their plans. Ethan seemed more interested in listening. "What about you? How did you get into consulting?" "Family business, sort of. I fell into it." "Do you like it?" He paused. "Parts of it. The problem-solving parts, not so much the politics." They talked for another 20 minutes. Easy conversation about work and travel and the strange experience of red-eye flights. Nothing deep or personal, just two tired people sharing coffee. I should probably head home, Alyssa finally said. My cat will think I abandoned her. What's her name? Luna. She's gray and white and totally spoiled. Ethan smiled. Sounds perfect. They walked toward the exit together. Alyssa's car was in the long-term parking garage. Ethan was catching a ride. This was nice, she said when they reached the doors. Thanks for the coffee and for being a human pillow. Thanks for the company. They stood there for a moment. Alyssa felt like she should say something else, but she wasn't sure what. Maybe I could call you sometime, Ethan asked. If you'd like to have coffee when we're both more awake? Her heart did a little skip. I'd like that. They exchanged phone numbers. Ethan's fingers were warm when they brushed against hers as he handed back her phone. Drive safe, he said. You too. She walked toward the parking garage and turned back once. He was still standing by the doors, watching to make sure she got to her car safely. When she was out of sight, she smiled. Maybe sleeping on a stranger's shoulder was the best mistake she had ever made. The drive home took 15 minutes. Alyssa's apartment complex was quiet except for a dog barking somewhere in the distance. She climbed the stairs to her second-floor unit and slipped her key into the lock. Luna appeared as soon as the door opened. She meowed loudly, as if to say, "Where have you been?" Sorry, baby, Alyssa said, scratching behind Luna's ears. Long day. She fed Luna and poured herself a glass of water. Her apartment was small but clean. A couch and coffee table in the living room. A tiny kitchen with everything she needed. Her bedroom just big enough for a bed and dresser. It wasn't much, but it was hers. She changed into pajamas and brushed her teeth. In the bathroom mirror, she could see that her hair was still neat despite her nap on the plane. Rosa had taught her to use bobby pins that could survive anything. Lying in bed, she thought about Ethan, his gray sweater, his kind eyes, the way he had let her sleep without making her feel bad about it. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. Made it home safely. Hope you did too. Ethan. She smiled and typed back, home safe. Luna forgives me for being late. Glad to hear it. Sleep well, Alyssa. You too. She plugged in her phone and closed her eyes. Tomorrow was her day off. She would sleep late and do laundry and maybe call her mother. But first thing in the morning, she wanted to text Ethan back. Across town, Ethan sat in the back of a black car as his driver navigated the empty streets. He stared out the window at the passing lights and thought about the woman who had fallen asleep on his shoulder. Alyssa. She worked hard and took care of her mother. She was beautiful without trying to be, and she had no idea who he really was. His phone buzzed. His assistant. Meetings moved to 10 a.m. Reports on your desk. Call when you're ready. He almost laughed. If only she knew. He was thinking about coffee shops and gray cats and how peaceful it felt to have someone trust him enough to fall asleep beside him. For 2 hours on that plane, he had been nobody special. Just Ethan. He wanted to be nobody special for a little while longer. The next morning, Alyssa woke up to sunlight streaming through her bedroom window. Luna was curled up on the pillow beside her head, purring softly. She reached for her phone. 9:30 a.m. She had slept for 7 straight hours. When was the last time that happened? There was a text from Ethan sent an hour ago. Good morning. Hope you slept well. No pressure, but would you like to meet for lunch today? Alyssa stared at the message. Her heart did that little skip again. A cute guy wanted to spend time with her, in daylight, when she was fully awake. She typed back, Good morning. Lunch sounds nice. Where were you thinking? His response came quickly. Anywhere you like. I'm new to the area. She thought about it. Most of the places she knew were cheap and casual. Diners and sandwich shops, nothing fancy. There's a good deli on Main Street, Murphy's. Nothing fancy, but the food is great. Perfect. What time works for you? 1 p.m.? See you there. Alyssa put down her phone and smiled. A real date. Well, maybe a date. At least lunch with someone interesting. She got up and looked in her closet. Most of her clothes were work uniforms or old jeans. She pulled out a blue sundress she had bought on sale last summer. It was simple but pretty. After a shower, she put on the dress and a little makeup. Not too much. She wanted to look nice, but not like she was trying too hard. Murphy's Deli was a 10-minute walk from her apartment. She arrived 5 minutes early and looked around. Ethan wasn't there yet. The restaurant was busy with the lunch crowd, construction workers ordering sandwiches to go, a group of women her mother's age sharing a pizza, 2 teenagers splitting a plate of fries. "Alyssa?" She turned. Ethan stood behind her wearing khakis and a blue button-down shirt. His hair was still a little messy, like he had been running his hands through it. "Hi," she said. "You found it okay?" "GPS is a wonderful thing," he smiled. "Should we get a table?" They were seated in a booth by the window. The waitress brought them menus and glasses of water. "This place is great," Ethan said, looking around. "Very authentic." Alyssa laughed. "That's a nice way of saying old and worn down." "I meant it as a compliment. Places like this have character." She studied his face to see if he was being polite, but he seemed genuine. He was reading the menu like he was actually excited about the food. "The Turkey Club is really good," she said, "and their soup changes every day." "What's the soup today?" She caught the waitress's attention. "What's the soup today, Marge?" "Chicken and rice. Made it this morning." "That sounds perfect," Ethan said. When Marge left, Alyssa leaned forward. "You don't have to order the soup just because I suggested it. I want the soup. I trust your judgment." There was something about the way he said it that made her feel warm inside, like her opinion mattered. "So," she said, "tell me about this consulting work." Ethan paused for just a moment. "It's mostly problem-solving. Companies hire me to look at their operations and suggest improvements." "That sounds interesting. Do you travel a lot?" "More than I'd like. That's why I was on your flight last night, coming back from a client meeting." "Where was the meeting?" Another tiny pause. "Chicago." Alyssa nodded. "I've never been there. Is it nice?" "Big, busy. I prefer smaller places like this." Their food arrived. Alyssa had ordered a grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup, comfort food. Ethan's chicken and rice soup smelled delicious. They ate and talked, easy conversation about food and travel and what they did in their free time. Alyssa told him about Luna and her small garden on the apartment balcony. Ethan talked about hiking and reading and how much he enjoyed cooking. "You cook?" she asked. "I'm not bad at it. Nothing fancy, but I can make a decent pasta sauce." "That's more than most guys can do. My last boyfriend thought cereal counted as cooking." "Your last boyfriend was missing out. Good food is one of life's pleasures." Something in his tone made her look at him more closely. He talked about food like someone who had eaten in nice restaurants, but he was sitting in Murphy's Deli like he belonged there. "What about you?" he asked. "Do you like to cook?" "I'm learning. My mom is teaching me her recipes. She makes the best black beans and rice you've ever tasted." "I'd love to try them sometime." The words hung in the air between them. Was he hinting that he wanted to meet her mother? That seemed fast, but maybe he was just being friendly. "How long have you been in town?" Alyssa asked. "A few months. I'm still getting used to it." "Where did you move from?" "Back east." He took a spoonful of soup. "What about you? Born and raised here?" "Lived here my whole life. My mom moved here when I was little. She wanted somewhere safe and quiet to raise me." "Smart woman." "The smartest. She worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, taught me that hard work matters more than anything else." Ethan's expression grew thoughtful. "She sounds incredible." "She is. I owe her everything." They finished eating and split the check despite Ethan's protests. Alyssa insisted on paying her half. She always did. Outside the restaurant, they walked slowly down Main Street. The afternoon was warm and sunny. Other people were out walking too, families with kids, elderly couples holding hands. "This is a nice area," Ethan said. "It's not fancy, but people look out for each other. When my mom was sick last year, the neighbors brought us food for a week. That's rare these days." They stopped at a small park with benches and old oak trees. Kids were playing on the swings while their parents watched. "Can I ask you something?" Alyssa said as they sat down on an empty bench. "Sure." "Why are you being so nice to me?" Ethan looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you could have woken me up on the plane. You could have said no to coffee. You could have made some excuse about lunch, but you didn't. Why?" He was quiet for a moment. "Do you really want to know?" "Yes. Because you seem real. Most people I meet are trying to be someone else, trying to impress me or get something from me. But you're just yourself. How do you know I'm not trying to impress you? Are you?" She thought about it. Not really. I mean, I put on a nice dress and brushed my hair, but I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not. That's what I mean. You're comfortable with who you are. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the kids play. A little girl with pigtails was teaching her younger brother how to use the monkey bars. "What about you?" Ethan asked. "Why are you giving me a chance?" "Honestly, because you let me sleep on your shoulder for an hour and didn't make me feel weird about it. That tells me something about your character." "What does it tell you?" "That you're kind and patient, and that you think about other people's needs, not just your own." Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. "Work?" Alyssa asked. "Yeah, I should probably—" "It's okay, I understand." He typed a quick response and put the phone away. "Sorry, where were we?" "You were telling me about your cooking skills." They talked for another hour, about books and movies and places they wanted to travel. Alyssa found herself laughing more than she had in months. Ethan was funny and smart and easy to talk to. When it started getting late, he walked her back toward her apartment building. "This was really nice," she said when they reached her street. "I'd like to do it again, if you would." "I'd like that too." "Tomorrow night? Dinner somewhere?" "Okay, but let me pick the place this time. I know all the best cheap eats in town." Ethan laughed. "Deal." He waited until she was safely inside before walking away. From her window, Alyssa watched him pull out his phone and make a call, probably calling for a ride. She realized she still didn't know much about him, where he lived, what kind of car he drove, how old he was, basic things you usually learned about someone on a first date. But somehow it didn't matter. What mattered was how he made her feel, safe and interesting and worth listening to. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "How was your day off, baby?" "Really good, Mama. I'll call you tonight. Looking forward to it." Alyssa smiled and went to feed Luna. She had a lot to tell her mother about. The next few days fell into a comfortable pattern. Ethan texted her every morning. Nothing pushy or overwhelming, just a simple "good morning" or "hope you have a good day." They met for coffee twice and dinner once, always at places Alyssa suggested. Small, local restaurants where the food was good and the prices were reasonable. Ethan seemed to enjoy them all. He talked to the waitresses like he had known them for years. He complimented the cooks when they came out of the kitchen. He left good tips, but not so big they would attract attention. "You're not what I expected," Alyssa told him over pizza on Thursday night. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Most guys I meet want to take me to fancy places, show off, try to impress me. Maybe they think you're impressive enough to deserve fancy places. Or maybe they think I'll be more likely to sleep with them if they spend money on me." Ethan's expression darkened. "That's awful." "That's dating." She took a bite of pizza. "But you're different. You seem happy just hanging out." "I am happy. This is the most relaxed I've felt in months." "Work stress?" "Something like that." She was starting to notice that Ethan always gave vague answers about work. Maybe he didn't like his job. Maybe it was boring or complicated to explain. She didn't push. On Friday, she had to work. Rosa noticed her good mood immediately. "You're humming," Rosa said as they restocked their cleaning carts. "Am I?" "Mm-hmm. And you did your hair different. Who is he?" Alyssa laughed. Rosa noticed everything. "His name is Ethan. I met him on the plane Monday night." "The one where you fell asleep?" "You remember everything, don't you?" "When it comes to my girls, yes. Tell me about this Ethan." They walked to their first room together. Alyssa told Rosa about their dates while they cleaned, how easy he was to talk to, how he listened to her stories, how he treated waitresses and strangers with respect. "Sounds too good to be true," Rosa said, stripping sheets from a king-size bed. "That's what I keep thinking. But I haven't seen any red flags yet." "Keep your eyes open, Mija. Good ones exist, but so do good liars." "You're so encouraging," Rosa smiled. "I want you to be happy. Just be smart, too." That evening, Alyssa called her mother like she did every Friday. Marianne Monroe was 58 and worked as a school secretary. She had raised Alyssa alone after Alyssa's father left when she was 3. "You sound different," her mother said after they had talked for a few minutes. "Different how?" "Happier, lighter." Alyssa told her about Ethan. Her mother listened without interrupting, which meant she was taking it seriously. "Have you looked him up online?" Marianne asked when Alyssa finished. "No, should I?" Maybe, not to be nosy, but to be safe. You don't know anything about this man's background. He seems really nice, Mama. I'm sure he does. Nice doesn't mean safe. What's his last name? Alyssa realized she didn't know. In all their conversations, she had never asked. He had never volunteered it. I'll find out, she said. Good, and I want to meet him soon. If he's serious about you, he won't mind meeting your mother. After they hung up, Alyssa thought about what her mother had said. She did need to know more about Ethan's background. Not because she suspected anything bad, but because it was the smart thing to do. When he called Saturday morning to ask about their plans, she decided to be direct. Can I ask you something? She said. Always. What's your last name? I just realized I don't know. There was a pause, a tiny hesitation that made her stomach tighten. Cole, he said finally. Ethan Cole. Cole, that's nice, strong. What about you? I don't think I know yours either. Monroe, Alyssa Monroe. Beautiful name for a beautiful woman. The compliment made her feel warm, but something about that pause bothered her. Why had he hesitated? Was there something about his name he didn't want her to know? Stop it, she told herself. You're being paranoid. So what should we do today? She asked. Your choice. I'm just happy to spend time with you. They went to the farmer's market in the town square. It was a perfect Saturday morning, sunny and warm with a light breeze. The market was full of families and couples browsing the stalls. Alyssa bought tomatoes from her favorite vendor. Ethan bought a bouquet of sunflowers. For you, he said, handing them to her. They're beautiful. Thank you. They reminded me of you, bright and cheerful. No one had bought her flowers in over a year. She buried her nose in the petals and smiled. They walked through the rest of the market together. Ethan seemed fascinated by everything. He asked vendors about their growing methods. He sampled honey and homemade jam. He bought a loaf of fresh bread from the bakery stall. You seem like you've never been to a farmer's market before, Alyssa said. Not like this one. It's so friendly. They sat on a bench in the square and shared the bread. It was still warm from the oven, with a crispy crust and soft inside. This is perfect, Ethan said, looking round at the families and vendors and musicians playing on the corner. It's just a regular Saturday market. That's what makes it perfect. Regular. Real. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his face changed. I'm sorry, I have to take this, he said. He walked a few feet away to answer. Alyssa couldn't hear the words, but his tone was different, more formal, more businesslike. When he came back, he looked apologetic. I'm really sorry, but I have to go. Work emergency. On Saturday? Some clients don't understand weekends. He walked her back to her apartment and kissed her cheek before leaving. It was the first time he had kissed her, even in such an innocent way. Her skin tingled where his lips had touched. I'll call you later, he promised. But he didn't call later. He texted around 8 p.m. Really sorry about today. Crisis mode at work. Rain check on tonight? Of course. Hope everything's okay. Will be. Talk tomorrow? Yes. Alyssa put her phone down and tried not to feel disappointed. Work emergencies happened. She understood that. But something felt different about the way he had left, rushed and almost secretive. She arranged the sunflowers in a vase and put them on her kitchen table. They really were beautiful. Luna jumped onto the table and sniffed at the flowers. What do you think, girl? Alyssa asked. Is he too good to be true? Luna purred and rubbed against the vase. That's not really an answer. Sunday came and went with no word from Ethan. Alyssa cleaned her apartment and did laundry and tried not to check her phone every 10 minutes. By evening, she was starting to worry. Had something happened to him, or was he pulling back for some reason? Finally, around 9 p.m., her phone rang. Alyssa, it's Ethan. Hi. Is everything okay? Yes and no. The work crisis is handled, but it reminded me how crazy my schedule can get. I don't want to drag you into that. What do you mean? I mean, maybe we should slow down a little. I don't want to start something I can't finish properly. Her heart sank. Oh. It's not that I don't want to see you. I do. More than you know. I just want to be fair to you. Let me decide what's fair to me. He was quiet for a moment. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm overthinking this. Is that what you're doing? Yeah, can I see you tomorrow? We can talk about it in person. Okay. I'll pick you up at 7. We'll go somewhere nice. After he hung up, Alyssa stared at her phone. Something was happening with Ethan, something he wasn't telling her. But what? Monday evening, Ethan arrived at her apartment building exactly on time. He was dressed nicer than usual, dark slacks and a white dress shirt, no tie, but he looked more formal than she had ever seen him. "You look beautiful," he said when she opened the door. She had chosen a simple black dress and low heels, nothing fancy but appropriate for wherever they were going. "Where are we eating?" she asked. "A place called Riverside. Do you know it?" Alyssa's eyes widened. Riverside was the nicest restaurant in town, white tablecloths and wine lists and entrees that cost more than she made in a day. "Ethan, that place is really expensive. Don't worry about it. I want tonight to be special." They drove there in a black sedan that appeared at her curb. Not a taxi or rideshare, a private car with a driver who called Ethan Mr. Cole. Alyssa's unease grew. The restaurant was exactly as fancy as she had expected. Crystal glasses and soft lighting, and a pianist playing in the corner. The hostess greeted them like she knew Ethan. "Good evening, Mr. Cole. Your table is ready." They were seated by the window with a view of the river. The menu had no prices listed. "Ethan," Alyssa said quietly, "this is too much. You deserve nice things. I'm not comfortable with this. I don't need fancy restaurants to be happy." "No, you don't. That's one of the things I like about you." The waiter approached, a man in his 40s with perfect posture and an expensive suit. "Good evening, Mr. Cole. Will you be having your usual tonight?" "Not tonight, James. We'll need menus." James looked surprised but recovered quickly. "Of course. Right away." When he left, Alyssa stared at Ethan. "Your usual? You've been here before." "A few times." "How many times do you have to come somewhere to have a usual?" Ethan looked uncomfortable. "Alyssa, who are you?" she asked quietly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, who are you really? Because the man I've been dating for a week doesn't eat at places like this. He doesn't have drivers and usual orders and restaurant staff who know him by name." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Around them, other diners chatted softly over their expensive meals. "You're right," he said finally. "There are things about my life I haven't told you." "What kinds of things?" "The kind that change how people see me." Alyssa felt a chill. "Are you married?" "No, nothing like that." "Then what?" He took a deep breath. "I'm not really a consultant. I mean, I do consulting work, but that's not my main job. I run a company. Several companies, actually." "What kind of companies?" "Real estate development, construction, some tech investments." She stared at him. "You're rich." "Yes." The word hung between them like a wall. Rich. Really rich, if he was eating at places like this regularly. "How rich?" she asked. "Does it matter?" "It might. Rich enough that money isn't something I think about anymore." Alyssa felt like the floor was falling out from under her. Everything made sense now. His nice clothes that looked casual but probably cost hundreds of dollars. His phone calls from work on weekends. The way he never looked at prices on menus. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted you to know me first, just me." "But you lied to me." "I never lied. I just didn't tell you everything." "That's the same thing." The waiter returned with menus. Alyssa didn't look at hers. "I need some air," she said, standing up. "Alyssa, wait." But she was already walking away from the table, through the restaurant, out into the parking lot. Ethan followed her outside. "Please, let me explain." "Explain what?" "That you've been pretending to be someone you're not for the past week." "I haven't been pretending. Everything I've told you about myself is true. I just left out some details." "Some details?" "You left out that you're rich enough to own restaurants like this." "I don't own this restaurant." "But you could." He didn't deny it. Alyssa wrapped her arms around herself. The evening air was cool, and she was shivering. "Why?" she asked. "Why not just tell me the truth from the beginning?" "Because most people treat me differently when they know. They want things from me. Or they decide I'm not good enough for them because I have money I didn't earn." "Didn't earn?" "My father built the business. I inherited most of it." She looked at him standing there in his expensive clothes, and she felt like she didn't know him at all. "Take me home," she said. "Alyssa, please, can't we talk about this?" There's nothing to talk about. You lied to me for a week. I was going to tell you. Tonight, actually. That's why I brought you here. To show off? To prove how rich you are? To be honest with you, to show you this part of my life and see if it changed things between us. It does change things. Why? I'm still the same person who let you sleep on his shoulder. No, you're not. That person was Ethan the consultant. You're Ethan the millionaire. Those are two different people. The driver appeared at Ethan's side. Is everything all right, Mr. Cole? Fine, Marcus. Can you please take Miss Monroe home? Of course. Alyssa got into the back seat without looking at Ethan again. Through the window, she saw him standing in the restaurant parking lot, watching them drive away. Her phone rang before they reached her apartment. Ethan. She let it go to voicemail. It rang again. She turned it off. Marcus pulled up to her building. Have a good evening, Miss Monroe, he said kindly. Thank you. Upstairs in her apartment, Luna was waiting by the door. Alyssa picked her up and held her close. He lied to me, girl, she whispered into Luna's fur. He made me feel like an idiot. But even as she said it, she wondered if that was true. Had Ethan lied? Or had she just assumed things about him that turned out to be wrong? Her phone showed 3 missed calls and 2 text messages. Please let me explain. I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry. She didn't respond to either one. Instead, she changed into pajamas and made herself a cup of tea. She sat on her couch and tried to figure out how she felt. Embarrassed, definitely. She had taken him to cheap restaurants and split the check. She had worried about him spending too much money. She had treated him like he was just a regular guy with a regular job. Angry, yes, not because he was rich, but because he had hidden it from her, because he had let her make assumptions and never corrected them. But underneath the embarrassment and anger was something else. Hurt. Because for a week she had thought she had found someone real, someone who liked her for who she was, not what she could do for him. Now she didn't know what was real and what wasn't. Her phone rang again. This time it was her mother. Hi, Mama. You sound upset. What's wrong? Alyssa told her everything. The fancy restaurant, the driver, the revelation about Ethan's wealth. So he's rich, Marianne said when she finished. How does that change who he is? He lied to me. Did he? Or did he just not tell you something? Same thing. Is it? When you told me about him, did you mention that you clean hotel rooms for a living? That's different. How? Alyssa thought about it. Because my job doesn't matter. His wealth does. Why does it matter? Because, she trailed off. Why did it matter? Because he should have told me. Maybe, but maybe he had good reasons not to. Whose side are you on? Yours, baby. Always yours. But I want you to think about something. This man spent a week getting to know you. He could have impressed you with money from day one. Instead, he took you to the places you suggested. He listened to your stories. He bought you flowers at the farmer's market. Does that sound like someone who was trying to deceive you? I don't know anymore. What does your gut tell you? Alyssa closed her eyes and tried to separate her hurt feelings from her instincts. What did her gut say about Ethan? That he was kind, that he made her laugh, that he treated everyone around him with respect, that he had made her feel special and interesting and worth caring about. I'm scared, Mama. Of what? Of not being good enough for his world. Alyssa Monroe, you listen to me. You are good enough for any world. You work hard, you're honest, you're kind to everyone you meet. If this man can't see that, then he's not good enough for you. After they hung up, Alyssa sat in the dark thinking. Her mother was right about some things. Ethan had spent a week showing her who he was through his actions. His kindness to waitresses, his patience with her stories, his willingness to walk through farmers markets and eat pizza in dive restaurants. Maybe the real Ethan was both things. The man who let her sleep on his shoulder and the millionaire who could afford drivers and fancy restaurants. Maybe she needed to figure out which part mattered more. The next morning, Alyssa woke up to 17 missed calls and 12 text messages, all from Ethan. She scrolled through them while drinking coffee. They started apologetic and got more worried as the night went on. I'm sorry. I should have been honest from the beginning. Please just let me know you're okay. I understand if you don't want to see me. I just need to know you're safe. The last one was sent at 3 a.m. I can't sleep knowing I hurt you. That was never what I wanted. Alyssa set her phone aside and got ready for work. She had a shift at the hotel starting at noon. Maybe staying busy would help her think clearly. But when she got to work, Rosa took one look at her face and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" Rosa asked as they loaded their carts. Alyssa told her everything, about the restaurant and the driver, and finding out Ethan was rich. "So he has money," Rosa said when she finished. "Why is that bad?" "He lied to me for a week." "Did he tell you he was poor?" "No, but did he ask you to pay for things you couldn't afford?" "No." "Did he make you feel bad about your job or your life?" "No." Rosa stopped pushing her cart and looked at Alyssa directly. "Then what's the real problem?" "I don't know." Alyssa's voice was small. "I feel like an idiot, taking him to cheap restaurants, worrying about money. He was probably laughing at me the whole time." "Was he laughing when you told him about your mother? When you shared stories about your life? When he bought you flowers at the market?" Alyssa thought about Ethan's face during those moments. He had been focused on her, interested, present. "No," she admitted. "Then maybe you're being too hard on him, and on yourself." They worked in silence for a while, cleaning rooms and changing sheets. But Rosa's words stayed with Alyssa. During her lunch break, she finally listened to Ethan's voicemails. The first one was formal. "Alyssa, it's Ethan. I know you're upset and you have every right to be. I just want a chance to explain." The second one was more emotional. "I know I handled this wrong. I should have told you the truth earlier. I was scared you'd see me differently." The third one was recorded late at night. His voice was tired. "I keep thinking about that first night on the plane, how peaceful it felt to just be myself with you. I've never had that before. I didn't want to lose it." Alyssa closed her eyes. She could hear the pain in his voice. Whatever his reasons, he was genuinely sorry. But sorry didn't fix the fact that he had hidden something important from her. When her shift ended, she drove home slowly. The afternoon was gray and drizzly. It matched her mood. As she turned onto her street, she saw a familiar figure sitting on the steps of her building. Ethan. He was wearing jeans and a rain jacket, looking nothing like the wealthy businessman from the night before. He stood up when he saw her car. Alyssa parked and walked over to him. He looked like he hadn't slept much. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Waiting for you. I wanted to apologize in person." "You could have called." "You weren't answering." They stood there in the light rain, looking at each other. "You want to come inside?" she asked finally. He nodded. Upstairs in her apartment, Luna immediately went to Ethan and rubbed against his legs. Traitor cat. "She likes you," Alyssa said. "I like her too." Alyssa made coffee while Ethan sat on her small couch. Her apartment felt even smaller with him in it, not because he was large, but because she now knew he was used to much bigger spaces. "Nice place," he said. "You don't have to lie." "I'm not lying. It's warm and comfortable. It feels like home." She brought him a mug and sat in the chair across from him, keeping distance. "Okay," she said. "Explain." "My father started coal construction when I was 10 years old. One small project became 2, then 5, then 50. By the time I graduated college, it was a multi-million-dollar company." "And you inherited it?" "When he died 3 years ago, yes, along with his real estate holdings and investment portfolio. That must have been hard, losing your father and inheriting all that responsibility." Ethan looked surprised. "Most people ask about the money first." "I'm not most people." "No, you're not," he leaned forward. "It was hard. I was 26 and suddenly responsible for 300 employees. I had to learn everything fast." "Is that why you travel so much?" "Yes. I have projects in 12 states. I spend most of my time putting out fires and solving problems." Alyssa sipped her coffee. "Why didn't you just tell me this a week ago?" "Because every woman I've dated since my father died has seen dollar signs first and me second. They want the lifestyle, the fancy restaurants and expensive trips. They don't want to know about the 18-hour days or the constant stress." "So you assumed I'd be the same?" "I hoped you'd be different, and when you were, I didn't want to risk changing that." Alyssa set down her mug. "But you did change it. By lying." "I know. I was wrong." "What else haven't you told me?" "Nothing important. I live in a big house about 20 minutes from here. I drive nice cars. I have more money than I know what to do with. But none of that changes how I feel about you." How do you feel about me? Like I can breathe when I'm with you. Like you see something in me that has nothing to do with my bank account. She studied his face. He looked sincere. But she had thought he was sincere when he told her he was a consultant. I need some time to think, she said. I understand. I'm not saying no, I'm just saying I need to figure out if I can trust you again. That's fair. He stood to leave. At the door, he turned back. For what it's worth, the man you've been spending time with is the real me. The money is just circumstance, but you're the best thing that's happened to me in years. After he left, Alyssa sat on her couch thinking. Luna jumped up and settled in her lap. What do you think, girl? Can people change? Can trust be rebuilt? Luna purred and closed her eyes. The next few days passed quietly. Ethan didn't call or text, giving her the space she had asked for. But he sent flowers. Not expensive arrangements from fancy florists, simple wildflowers like the ones they had seen at the farmer's market. The note said, "Thinking of you. Take all the time you need." On Thursday, her day off, Alyssa drove to her mother's house. Marianne lived in a small cottage with a garden full of vegetables and flowers. You look tired, her mother said as they sat on the front porch. I haven't been sleeping well. Still thinking about Ethan? Constantly. What's your heart telling you? Alyssa leaned back in her chair. That I miss him. That I was happier this past week than I've been in a long time. And your head? That people with that much money live in a different world. That I don't know how to be part of that world. Who says you have to be part of his world? Maybe he wants to be part of yours. Mama, he has a driver and staff who know his usual order at expensive restaurants. His world isn't something you can just walk away from. Maybe not, but you can decide what parts of it matter to you. They sat quietly for a while, watching hummingbirds visit the feeder hanging from the porch roof. Can I tell you something? Marianne said. When your father left, I was angry for a long time, not just because he abandoned us, but because I had trusted him. I felt like an idiot for not seeing what he really was. Alyssa had heard this story before, but she let her mother continue. But you know what I learned? The fact that someone disappoints you doesn't mean you were wrong to trust them in the first place. It just means they're human. Ethan didn't abandon me, Mama. No, he didn't. He made a mistake. A mistake that came from fear, not malice. That's very different. That evening, Alyssa called Rosa. I've been thinking about what you said, she told her mentor, about Ethan's actions versus his bank account. And? You're right. He never made me feel bad about my life. He seemed genuinely interested in my stories. He treated everyone kindly. So, what's holding you back? Fear, I guess. Fear that his world will swallow up mine. Fear that I'm not sophisticated enough or educated enough or whatever enough. Misha, listen to me. I've been cleaning up after rich people for 15 years. Some of them are terrible human beings who think their money makes them better than everyone else, but some of them are just people who happen to have money. How do you tell the difference? By how they treat the people who can't do anything for them. How does Ethan treat waitresses, cab drivers, store clerks? Alyssa thought about it. Every interaction she had witnessed had been respectful and kind. He tips well, but not showily, she said. He says please and thank you. He remembers people's names. That tells you who he really is. Friday night, Alyssa was watching a movie when her doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, she saw a delivery man holding a large box. Delivery for Alyssa Monroe, he said when she opened the door. Inside the box was a homemade lasagna, still warm, with a note. I remembered you saying your mom makes the best comfort food. I thought you might like some comfort food tonight. Made it myself. The lasagna was delicious, rich and cheesy with perfectly seasoned meat sauce. It was obviously made by someone who knew their way around a kitchen. She took a picture of the empty plate and texted it to Ethan. It was perfect. Thank you. He responded immediately. I'm glad you liked it. She stared at her phone for a long time before typing. Can we talk tomorrow? Yes, whatever you want. Coffee? The place where we first went. I'll be there. What time? 10 a.m.? See you then. Saturday morning came bright and clear. Alyssa chose her clothes carefully. Not too dressy, not too casual. She wanted to look like herself. Ethan was already waiting when she arrived at the coffee shop. He stood when he saw her, but didn't try to hug or kiss her, just smiled and said hello. They ordered their drinks and sat at the same table they had shared the first time. "Thank you for the lasagna," Alyssa said. "It was really good." "My grandmother's recipe. She taught me to cook when I was little." "You miss her?" "Every day. She would have liked you." "How do you know?" "Because she always said the measure of a person isn't what they have, but what they give." Alyssa wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "I've been thinking about everything you told me." "Okay. I'm still hurt that you didn't tell me the truth from the beginning, but I think I understand why you didn't. I was wrong to wait so long." "Maybe, but I was wrong too." "How?" "I assumed that your money changed who you are, that rich Ethan must be different from consultant Ethan, but you're the same person either way." "I try to be. The thing is, I don't know anything about your world. I don't know how to act at fancy restaurants or charity galas or whatever rich people do." "You don't have to know. I don't care about those things. But they're part of your life. They don't have to be part of ours." Alyssa looked at him carefully. "What do you mean?" "I mean, when I'm with you, I don't want to be the CEO of Cole Construction. I just want to be Ethan, the guy who likes farmers markets and homemade lasagna and cats named Luna." "Can it really be that simple? If we want it to be." She thought about the past week without him, how much she had missed his morning texts and easy conversation, how empty her days had felt. "I missed you," she said quietly. "I missed you too. If we do this, if we try again, things have to be different." "How?" "No more secrets. If there's something important about your life, I need to know." "Agreed. And we take things slow. I need time to adjust to all of this. As slow as you want. And I meet your world gradually, not all at once in some fancy restaurant. We can eat at Murphy's Deli for the rest of our lives if that's what you want." She laughed despite herself. "I might want to branch out occasionally. Whatever makes you comfortable." They sat quietly for a moment. Around them, other people chatted over their Saturday morning coffee, normal people living normal lives. "Can I ask you something?" Alyssa said. "Anything. That night on the plane, when I fell asleep on your shoulder, did you already know you wanted to see me again?" Ethan smiled. "I knew before you even woke up." "How?" "Because for the first time in 3 years, I felt like myself instead of my father's son or the guy who inherited everything. I was just a man letting a tired woman get some rest." "And that was enough?" "That was everything." Alyssa reached across the table and took his hand. His fingers were warm and familiar. "Okay," she said. "Let's try this again. But honestly this time." "Honestly," he agreed. They left the coffee shop together, walking slowly toward Alyssa's neighborhood. The morning was perfect, sunny but not hot with a light breeze. "Can I tell you something?" Ethan said as they walked. "That's the point of honesty. I've never brought anyone to that restaurant before, Riverside." "Really? But the waiter knew you." "I eat there alone sometimes when I have business dinners. It's close to my office, but I've never brought a date there." "Why did you bring me?" "'Cause I wanted you to see that part of my life. I thought if you could accept it, we could move forward together." "That was a pretty big gamble." "It was, and I lost." "Maybe you didn't lose. Maybe you just learned that timing matters." They stopped at a crosswalk, waiting for the light to change. "Where do we go from here?" Alyssa asked. "Wherever you want. We have all the time in the world." The light turned green, and they crossed the street together, hand in hand, taking it one step at a time. For the first time in a week, Alyssa felt like everything might be okay. That evening, Ethan came to her apartment for dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and salad and wine from the grocery store. "This is nice," he said, looking around her small living room. "Peaceful. It's not much. It's perfect, it's you." They ate dinner sitting on her couch, plates balanced on their knees, Luna curled up between them. "Can I ask about your house?" Alyssa said. "What do you want to know?" "Is it huge and intimidating?" Ethan laughed. "It's bigger than I need. My father built it for entertaining clients. Too many rooms, too much space. Do you like it?" "Parts of it. The library is nice, and there's a garden my mother designed before she died. You could sell it, get something smaller." I've thought about it, but it's the only connection I have left to my parents. Alyssa understood that. After her father left, she and her mother had moved several times, but her mother had kept a few things from their old house. Not valuable things, just reminders of better times. Maybe you could show it to me sometime, she said, when I'm ready. When you're ready. They watched a movie together, something light and funny. Ethan seemed more relaxed than she had ever seen him, like he wasn't carrying the weight of secrets anymore. When it was time for him to leave, they stood at her door for a moment. "Thank you," he said, "for giving us another chance. Thank you for being honest." He kissed her forehead gently. "Sleep well." "You too." After he left, Alyssa cleaned up the dishes and got ready for bed. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Thank you for dinner, and for trusting me again. Sweet dreams." She typed back, "Sweet dreams to you too." For the first time in over a week, she fell asleep easily. The next few weeks established a new rhythm. Ethan still texted her every morning, but now the messages included details about his day, meetings with contractors, site visits to construction projects, conference calls with investors. They saw each other 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes at simple places like Murphy's Deli, sometimes at slightly nicer restaurants that weren't intimidating. Never anywhere that required her to dress up or worry about which fork to use. Gradually, Alyssa began to see how Ethan's two worlds fit together. He was genuinely happier in jeans and sneakers, eating pizza and walking through farmers markets. But he was also good at his job, responsible and smart, and caring about the people who worked for him. "I have to go to Chicago next week," he told her over coffee one Saturday morning. 3 days of meetings. "That's a long time." "Too long, but it's important. We're bidding on a major project there." "Will you win it?" "I think so. We do good work and our reputation is solid." Alyssa liked hearing him talk about his business. He was passionate about building things that lasted, creating jobs for skilled workers, developing projects that improved communities instead of just making money. "Maybe I could come with you sometime," she said, "if you want company on one of these trips." Ethan's face lit up. "Really? You'd want to?" "I'd like to see what you do, understand that part of your life. It's mostly boring meetings and construction sites." "I don't mind boring." "Okay, next trip if you can get the time off." They were making progress, slowly, carefully, but definitely moving forward. One evening in late April, they were walking along the river after dinner when Ethan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "I should take this. It's my cousin Daniel." "Go ahead." "Hey Daniel, what's up?" Alyssa could hear the other man's voice, but not his words. Whatever he was saying made Ethan's expression grow serious. "When?" Ethan asked, more talking from Daniel. "Okay, yes, I'll be there tomorrow morning. Thanks for calling." He hung up and looked at Alyssa apologetically. "Problem?" she asked. "One of our biggest projects hit a snag. Environmental issue that could shut us down for months. I need to fly to Denver tomorrow morning." "How long will you be gone?" "At least a week, maybe longer." Alyssa felt a familiar pang of disappointment, but this was his job, his responsibility. "I understand," she said. "I hate leaving you. I'll be here when you get back." He stopped walking and pulled her into a hug. "Promise?" "Promise." The next morning, she drove him to the airport. It felt strange being back in the place where they had met. "I'll call you every day," he said as they stood at the departure gate. "You better." He kissed her goodbye, a real kiss this time, soft and sweet and full of promise. "I'll miss you," he said. "Miss you too." She watched him walk through security and disappear down the concourse. Then she drove home to her empty apartment and tried not to count the days until his return. But that night, he called just like he promised. And every night after that, they talked about their days and their plans and how much they missed each other. "The environmental issue is more complicated than we thought," he told her on Wednesday night. "But we're making progress." "You sound tired." 18-hour days, but it's important. This project will create 300 jobs if we can get it back on track. You care about your workers. They have families to feed. That matters more than profit margins. On Friday, he had good news. "We found a solution. It'll cost us, but the project can move forward." "That's wonderful." "I should be home Sunday night. I'll pick you up." "You don't have to." "I want to." Sunday evening, Alyssa waited at the airport arrival gate. She had gotten there early, too excited to stay at home. When Ethan finally appeared, walking up the concourse with his carry-on bag, her heart skipped. A week apart had felt like a month. He dropped his bag and wrapped her in a hug that lifted her off her feet. "I missed you so much," he said into her hair. "Missed you too." They stood there holding each other while other passengers flowed around them. "Come on," Alyssa said finally. "Let's go home." Home. The word had slipped out naturally, but looking at Ethan's smile, she realized she meant it. Wherever they were together felt like home. 2 months later, Alyssa stood in front of her bathroom mirror, trying to calm her nerves. Tonight, she was finally going to see Ethan's house, his real house, the one he had inherited from his father. "You can do this," she told her reflection. "It's just a building." But it wasn't just a building, and they both knew it. It was the physical representation of the world Ethan came from, the world she would need to understand if their relationship was going to work. She had chosen her outfit carefully. A simple blue dress and flats, nothing too fancy, but nice enough to show she was making an effort. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. Ethan was always punctual. "Hi," he said when she opened the door. He looked nervous too. "You look beautiful." "Thank you." She grabbed her purse and keys. "Ready?" They drove through town and into the hills beyond. The houses got bigger and farther apart as they climbed. Alyssa watched the neighborhoods change from modest homes like hers to estates with long driveways and security gates. "How much farther?" she asked. "Almost there." He turned onto a private road lined with oak trees. At the end was a wrought iron gate that opened automatically as they approached. "Motion sensors," Ethan explained, seeing her surprised expression. The driveway curved through landscaped gardens, and then the house came into view. Alyssa's breath caught in her throat. It was massive. 3 stories of stone and glass with columns and balconies and windows that sparkled in the evening light. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I know, it's a lot." He parked in front of the main entrance. The front door was twice as tall as a normal door, made of dark wood with brass fixtures. "How many rooms?" she asked as they walked up the stone steps. 12 bedrooms, 15 bathrooms, plus all the common areas. I don't use most of them." Inside was even more overwhelming. The entrance hall had a marble floor and a chandelier that probably cost more than Alyssa made in a year. A staircase curved up to the second floor like something from a movie. "This is where you live?" she asked, her voice echoing in the vast space. "This is where I sleep. I wouldn't call it living." He led her through room after room. A formal dining room with a table that seated 20. A living room with furniture that looked like no one had ever sat on it. A kitchen that belonged in a restaurant. Everything was beautiful and expensive and cold. "Do you ever cook in here?" Alyssa asked, running her hand over the marble countertops. "Sometimes, but I usually eat in the breakfast nook." He showed her a smaller room off the kitchen. It had a round table for 4 and windows that looked out on the garden. This room felt warmer, more human. "This is better," she said. "My mother designed it. She said every house needed at least one room where people could be themselves." They walked through the garden as the sun set. It was beautiful. Roses and lavender and herbs arranged in perfect patterns. A stone fountain bubbled in the center. "Your mother had good taste. She would have liked you. She always said money was just a tool. What mattered was what you built with it." They sat on a bench beside the fountain. The evening air was warm and smelled like jasmine. "Can I ask you something?" Alyssa said. "Always? Do you ever feel lonely here?" Ethan was quiet for a moment. "Every day. It's too big for one person, too formal. I keep thinking I should sell it, but it's the last connection to your parents." "Yeah. What if you didn't sell it? What if you just changed it?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, make it yours. Turn some of those formal rooms into spaces you actually want to use. Fill it with things and people that matter to you." It would still be huge. "So, use the space for good things. Host dinners for your employees. Have parties for your friends. Turn one of those bedrooms into a library where you can actually relax." Ethan looked at her with something like wonder. "You make it sound simple." "Maybe it is simple. Maybe you've been thinking of this place as your father's house instead of your house." They walked back inside as the stars came out. Ethan showed her the library, a room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and leather chairs by a fireplace. "This is the only room where I feel comfortable," he said. "It's lovely." She walked around, looking at the books, architecture and history and classic novels. You have good taste in reading. Some of these were my father's, some I've added. Which ones are yours? He pointed to a section of newer books, fiction mostly, with some travel guides and cookbooks mixed in. You want to travel? She asked, pulling out a guide to Italy. I've always wanted to see Tuscany. The architecture there is incredible. Maybe you will someday. Maybe we will, he said quietly. The word hung in the air between them. We, future tense, together. Is that what you want? She asked. More than anything. They drove back to town in comfortable silence. When they reached Alyssa's apartment building, Ethan walked her to the door. Thank you for showing me your house, she said. What did you think? Honestly. Honestly? It's beautiful, but lonely. It doesn't feel like you. What feels like me? Murphy's Deli, the farmer's market, my apartment when we're cooking dinner together. Ethan smiled. Those are my favorite places too. Then maybe that's what matters. Not where you live, but how you live. Inside her apartment, Alyssa made tea and thought about the evening. The house was intimidating, yes, but it was also just a house. What mattered was the man who lived there. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Thank you for tonight, for seeing past the fancy rooms to what really matters. She typed back, thank you for trusting me with something so personal. I want to trust you with everything. Then do. The next morning was Saturday. Alyssa was having coffee on her balcony when her phone rang. Ethan. Good morning, she said. Good morning. Are you free today? No plans. Why? I want to show you something. Something I've been working on. Okay, pick me up. 20 minutes. When Ethan arrived, he was driving a pickup truck instead of his usual sedan. It was nice but practical, with construction company logos on the side. This is different, Alyssa said, climbing into the passenger seat. Work truck. We're going to a job site. They drove to the other side of town, where new houses were being built. The development was called Oakwood Heights, and it looked different from the usual cookie-cutter subdivisions. The houses were smaller and more affordable. Each one had a front porch and a small yard. They were arranged around a central green space with playground equipment and picnic tables. It's lovely, Alyssa said as they walked through the model home. These houses actually look like homes. That was the idea, affordable housing that doesn't look cheap. Whose project is this? Mine. Cole Construction is the developer. Alyssa stopped walking and looked at him. You're building affordable housing? 60 families will live here when it's finished. Teachers, firefighters, young couples just starting out. People who work hard but can't afford a $500,000 house. That's incredible. We're not making much profit, but profit isn't always the point. They walked through several houses in different stages of completion. Ethan explained the design choices: energy-efficient windows, good insulation, smart layouts that made small spaces feel bigger. The first families move in next month, he said. You must be proud. I am. This feels more important than any office building or luxury development I've ever done. On the drive back to town, Alyssa thought about what she had seen. This was Ethan's world too. Not just inherited wealth and fancy houses, but using his resources to help other people build better lives. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Was this your idea or something your father would have done? All mine. My father focused on commercial projects, big money, big profits. But I wanted to try something different. What made you think of it? You, actually. Alyssa was surprised. Me? That first day when you told me about working 2 jobs to cover your mother's medicine? It made me think about how hard it is for people to get ahead, even when they work their hearts out. I wanted to help change that. So you built affordable houses. So I built affordable houses. She reached over and took his hand. That's the most romantic thing anyone has ever done for me. Building houses is romantic. Building houses for people who need them is romantic. That afternoon, they went to Rosa's birthday party. Rosa had invited all the housekeeping staff and their families to her backyard for barbecue and music. Alyssa had been nervous about bringing Ethan, not because she was ashamed of her friends, but because she worried he might feel out of place. She shouldn't have worried. Within 10 minutes, he was helping Rosa's husband, Miguel, flip burgers on the grill. He played soccer with the kids and listened to Rosa's stories about her grandchildren. "Your boyfriend is nice," Rosa told Alyssa as they watched Ethan teach a group of children how to throw a football. "He is, isn't he? And he looks at you like you hung the moon." Alyssa glanced over at Ethan. He caught her eye and winked. "I think I'm falling in love with him," she said quietly. "Think? Mija, you fell in love with him weeks ago. You're just finally admitting it." Later that evening, Ethan walked Alyssa to her door. "That was fun," he said. "Your friends are great. They liked you too. Rosa said you fit right in." "I felt like I fit in. That doesn't always happen." "What do you mean?" "Most social events in my world are about business. People talking to me because they want something. But tonight was just real people enjoying each other's company. That's what friendship looks like." I'd forgotten. At her door, they stood close together in the warm night air. "Alyssa," Ethan said softly. "Yes?" "I need to tell you something." "What?" "I'm falling in love with you." Her heart skipped, then started beating double time. "Are you?" she whispered. "I am. Have been for weeks. I just wasn't sure if I should say it." "Why weren't you sure?" "Because I didn't want to pressure you. I know this is all complicated. My money, my world, all of it." "It is complicated," she agreed. "But you know what isn't complicated?" "What?" "How I feel about you." She stood on her tiptoes and kissed him. Really kissed him, with all the emotion she had been holding back for months. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "I love you too," she whispered against his lips. "Thank God," he said, and kissed her again. They spent the next hour sitting on her front steps, talking about their feelings and their fears and their hopes for the future. "I'm still scared sometimes," Alyssa admitted, "about not belonging in your world. Then let's create our own world, one that's part yours and part mine and completely ours." "Is that possible? With you?" "Anything feels possible." As summer progressed, they did exactly that, created their own world that blended the best of both their lives. Some evenings they ate takeout in Alyssa's apartment, curled up on her small couch with Luna between them. Other nights they cooked dinner in Ethan's big kitchen and ate in the breakfast nook, while planning changes to make the house feel more like a home. Ethan started hosting monthly barbecues for his construction crews. Families gathered around the pool while kids played in the garden. The big house finally had laughter echoing through its halls. Alyssa learned to navigate some parts of Ethan's world, business dinners where she charmed clients with her warmth and genuine interest in their lives, charity events where she helped him decide which causes deserved coal construction support. "You're good at this," he told her after a particularly successful fundraiser for literacy programs. "I just listen to people. Amazing how rare that is in your circles." "Our circles," he corrected. "Our circles." In August, Ethan had to fly to Seattle for a week of meetings. This time, Alyssa went with him. She took vacation days from the hotel and found herself in a world she had only seen in movies. First-class flights and luxury hotels and business dinners that cost more than her monthly rent. But Ethan made sure she never felt out of place. He explained everything beforehand, introduced her to clients as his partner, not just his girlfriend, made it clear that her opinions mattered to him. "What did you think of the waterfront project?" he asked after a long day of presentations. They were in their hotel room, Alyssa soaking her feet after walking around in dress shoes all day. "I think it's beautiful, but I worry about what happens to the families who live there now. Where will they go when their rent gets too expensive?" "That's exactly what I was thinking. Maybe we need to include affordable housing in the development." "Is that possible?" "With the right incentives, yes." The next day, Ethan proposed changes to the project that would include subsidized housing for displaced residents. The clients were initially resistant, but Alyssa's questions the night before had helped him prepare compelling arguments. "You changed that meeting," he told her afterward. "I just asked questions." "You asked the right questions, questions that made everyone think about the human cost, not just the financial benefits." "Is that what I'm here for, to be your conscience?" "You're here because I love you. Everything else is just bonus." On their last night in Seattle, they walked along the waterfront as the sun set over Puget Sound. "Can I ask you something?" Alyssa said. "Always? Do you ever regret it?" Taking over your father's business instead of doing something else? Ethan thought about it. I used to. The first year was so overwhelming. I felt like I was drowning in responsibilities I never asked for. What changed? Meeting you changed everything. You made me see that the business could be about more than just making money, that I could use it to actually help people. You would have figured that out on your own. Maybe, but it would have taken years. You showed me in weeks. They stopped walking and looked out at the water. Ferries moved slowly across the sound, their lights reflecting on the dark water. I have something to tell you, Ethan said. What? I've been thinking about something big. How big? Life-changing big. Alyssa's heart started beating faster. What is it? I want to ask you to marry me. Want to ask me or are asking me? Want to ask you, but not yet. Why not yet? Because I want to do it right. I want to be sure you're ready for everything that comes with being my wife. What comes with it? Scrutiny. People always watching, always judging, charity boards and social obligations, the pressure to be perfect all the time. Alyssa considered this. She had seen glimpses of that world already. The way people looked at her when they realized she was with Ethan, the questions about her background and education. Can I ask you something? She said. If I said yes, hypothetically, would you expect me to quit my job? Become a full-time socialite? God, no, you love what you do. You're good at it. Rosa depends on you. What if I wanted to do something else? Go back to school, maybe. I'd support whatever you wanted to do. What if I never learned to like fancy parties? Then we'll skip them. What if your friends don't accept me? Then they're not really my friends. They walked back to the hotel hand in hand. So, Alyssa said as they waited for the elevator, when you do ask me, hypothetically, what will the answer be? Ethan smiled. I guess we'll find out. But she already knew what her answer would be. Flying home the next day, Alyssa stared out the airplane window and thought about how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, she had been a single woman working long hours to pay her bills, going home, to an empty apartment every night. Now she was in love with a man who saw her as his equal partner, who valued her opinions and wanted to build a life together. What are you thinking about? Ethan asked, taking her hand. That night when I fell asleep on your shoulder. What about it? I was so embarrassed when I woke up. I thought you must think I was some kind of weirdo. I thought you were beautiful. And brave. Brave? It takes courage to be vulnerable, even accidentally. Most people spend so much energy protecting themselves that they never let anyone get close. Is that what you were doing? Protecting yourself? For years. Until I met you. The plane began its descent into their home airport. Alyssa could see the city spread out below them, all those lights representing all those lives. Ethan? Yeah? I'm ready. Ready for what? For whatever you want to ask me, whenever you want to ask it. He brought her hand to his lips and kissed it softly. Good, he said, because I can't wait much longer. 2 weeks later, on a Saturday morning in late August, Ethan picked Alyssa up for what he said was a simple breakfast at their favorite diner. But instead of turning toward downtown, he drove to the airport. Where are we going? She asked. Trust me? Always. They boarded a small private plane. Alyssa had never been on anything so luxurious, leather seats and a flight attendant who served them coffee in actual china cups. Seriously, where are we going? She asked as they took off. You'll see. 2 hours later, they landed at a small airport in the mountains. A car was waiting to take them up winding roads through pine forests and meadows full of wildflowers. They stopped at a rustic lodge with a wraparound porch and rocking chairs. Mountains stretched to the horizon in every direction. It's beautiful, Alyssa said. What is this place? My family used to come here when I was little. It's one of my happiest memories. They walked along a hiking trail that led to a waterfall. The sound of rushing water grew louder as they climbed higher. At the top was a clearing with a view of the entire valley. Wildflowers carpeted the meadow. The waterfall cascaded down rocks polished smooth by years of flowing water. This is where my parents got engaged, Ethan said. Alyssa's heart started racing. Is it? 35 years ago, my father proposed right here by this waterfall. That's romantic. I thought so too. He turned to face her, and she saw that his hands were shaking slightly. Alyssa Monroe, he said, dropping to one knee. Ethan, I love you. I love your strength and your kindness and the way you make me want to be a better man. I love how you see the good in everyone and everything. I love that you fell asleep on my shoulder and changed my entire life. He pulled out a small velvet box. Will you marry me? The ring was perfect, not huge and flashy, but elegant and timeless. A classic solitaire that caught the light from the waterfall and sparkled like the stars. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, of course, yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her. Around them, the mountains seemed to celebrate with them, the waterfall singing its ancient song of joy. I love you, she said against his lips. I love you so much. I love you too, forever. They stayed by the waterfall for hours, talking about their future and their dreams, where they would live, what kind of wedding they wanted, how many children they hoped to have. Can we come back here? Alyssa asked as the sun began to set. Every year on this date, Ethan promised, for the rest of our lives. For the rest of our lives. They flew home that evening, engaged and giddy and planning their forever together. At Alyssa's apartment, Luna seemed to sense that something had changed. She purred loudly and wound around their legs, demanding attention. What do you think, Luna? Alyssa asked, showing her the ring. Do you approve? Luna meowed and settled in Ethan's lap, purring. I think that's a yes, Ethan said. They called Alyssa's mother first. Marianne cried happy tears and demanded to know when she could start planning the wedding. Then, Rosa, who screamed so loudly that Ethan could hear her through the phone. Mija, I'm so happy for you. When's the wedding? Where will you live? Can I help with the planning? Finally, they called Ethan's cousin Daniel, who had been his best friend since childhood. About time, Daniel said. I was wondering when you were going to stop being scared and propose to that girl. I wasn't scared, Ethan protested. You were terrified. But she's worth being terrified for. Late that night, they lay in Alyssa's small bed, holding each other in the darkness. No regrets? Ethan asked. Only one, she said. I regret not falling asleep on your shoulder sooner. He laughed and pulled her closer. We found each other when we were supposed to. Do you really believe that? I believe that everything in my life led me to seat 24B on that plane, all of it, losing my parents, inheriting the business, all the lonely years. It was all worth it because it brought me to you. I love you, Ethan Cole. I love you too, future Mrs. Cole. Outside, the city slept around them. But inside Alyssa's small apartment, two hearts that had found each other were wide awake, planning a lifetime of love together. The boy who had inherited more money than he knew what to do with, and the girl who had worked her whole life for everything she had, were going to build something beautiful together. Something real and lasting and true. Something that started with exhaustion and kindness on a late-night flight and would continue for all the years to come.